Well, welcome everyone to Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. I'm your host, Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, the longevity impact of retirement, part 4 in our series on retiring right with media personality and financial consultant, ReJoyce. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks, Steve.
Alex, a lot of people don't know that we're out here in the West now. You're recording in Phoenix, but you're on television. You're all over the place here in publications. Mm-hmm. And how did you get into the whole media scene?
Yeah, I started writing. I've got a couple of books. I didn't mention that, but the latest book is called ReJoyce in Your Retirement. Everything you need to know to get everything you need. I should have brought it, but I'll send you a copy. But I just started writing, and it started getting picked up, and we work very closely with our PR firm, and we've really have a very strong relationship at this point, and we're just known, right? We're the authority in our local market. And the credibility is high enough to a lot of times we have local news stations asking us to appear and just talk about financial subjects and education. It's important.
It is important, and I appreciate you being out there in the airwaves talking about some of these things, especially we're going to talk about today.
Sure.
Now, longevity risk. We talked about beta risk in the earlier on in this series, but longevity risk is not only the number one risk in the United States in retirement, it's the number one, it's the multiplier of every other risk in retirement. If I live longer, I'm going to have more LTC needs. I might have more medical needs. I may need more income. It just exacerbates my position. I'm living longer. And by the way, old Susanna died 3 years ago, May 2016. She was the last American tricentenarian. She was born in 1899, lived throughout the 20th century. She died at 116. All right, so maybe that's the outlier.
Sure.
But longevity, it's impacting what we're talking about.
Most certainly is, as you just mentioned, right? A prime example, people are living longer, which means what? Our money has to live longer. A very, very large fear is outliving your money in retirement, right? Here we are, this year, of course, we're having a good start to the year, but leaving last year where the market was extremely volatile, there's a lot of fear, right? People have saved their whole lives, and now what do you do? So we, us as planners, we've got to make sure that we take that next step, if you will, in our practice. I think any good advisor can strategize and come up with a good plan today. Make sure there's a good income plan for today. But I think it's commonly missed, if you would, or a lot of advisors aren't really taking that next step to have the conversation that really nobody wants to have. What does long-term care look like? Is there a plan in place to make sure that you're not going to shovel your money away due to some type of illness, if you will, or some type of incapacitation, if you will, from you or you? So I think it is a major topic of discussion. We make sure that we have it in our practice, but I'm just not so sure that it's viral in terms of, I'm sure there's lots of good advisors doing it. But it's just something that's not talked about as much.
Let's just be frank. The last 3 retail seminars that I helped host, less than 10% of all people had any long-term care product to take care of their long-term care needs. So I know people hear about it, but they go, well, it costs too much. I'm not physically able to get the contract. I don't know if I have the cash flow to make the premiums on a regular monthly basis. There's a lot of complications, but that doesn't take away that it's going to happen.
Right. And I think you're right. You just said people tend to procrastinate, right? When it's something that they feel. The same thing they with their estate plan, right? Not to switch subjects, but they kind of procrastinate when they talk about death, or they talk about illness, or they talk about incapacitation or being bedridden. Nobody wants to talk about that.
No, that's right.
Right, but it's something that we have to address.
Well, medical expenses in retirement, in concert with long-term care, is going to be a budget buster for a lot of people in their 80s. It just is. Right. And so you need to start prepping for this. And so we're talking about long-term care. This is really a truth. I also noticed there's something that you talk about. Social Security, you have the spousal benefit, and then you have your benefit, right?
Right.
Those together, that's great. And I like the combination. It's forever. It's for life. And we got a little bump last year, a little inflation bump. I'll take it. However, when usually dad dies first, 87% of the time, Mom's moves up to his benefit, but then loses hers.
Correct.
You talk about, you're managing this issue. I hardly have to have anybody talk about this.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out this because I studied this for many years. I hold a designation. You may not know this, Steve, but it's called an NSSA, National Social Security Advisor Designation, which of course gives me the fiduciary responsibility to educate clients on the complexity of Social Security, because once people file for it, most at 62, unfortunately, they don't look at it. They don't look at their earnings reports. They just kind of turn it on. They don't want the income to pass them by. They deserve it. They work their whole lives, take it. But you're right. most people don't really, especially husband and wife, right? When he passes 87% of the time, her income moves up, or it could very, very seldomly go the other way, but her income moves up to the higher Social Security benefit, and she loses hers, which creates a need for what? Additional income. So how do we fill that gap?
Okay, now I've noticed, of course, I've noticed that we're using either single premium immediate annuities or deferred income annuities, because usually you need the money right away.
You do.
So I started planning for this, looked at my own mortality, and figured out when I want my, I chose a deferred income annuity to come online. So I figure I'm good to maybe 88, if God wills. Okay, so I'm good for 88. But from then on, I think my wife's going to live. She's a good diet, works out all the time. Yeah. I think she's going to be there for a long time. So I wanted to make sure that money was there, that she could execute it, right? The annuitization. Right. Now, long-term care, these bills aren't going away. We talked about Medicare, medical expenses. And when I have these going up and my Social Security, I might lose part of my Social Security because of the first death of the spouse. Right. I need to figure out a planning tactic to fill in this gap.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how do I do that, and then how are we going to pick up the tab? Yeah. And if I can't get a real long-term care product, what can I get?
Right. So let me first address the first piece. The first piece is I think there should be a plan ahead of time, because let's say that dad dies and he's 87 years old, and let's say mom is 85 or 83. What's traditionally, and I've been through this a lot in my firm, what traditionally happens is she's upset. There's been a change of lifestyle. Not really sure what to do. The last thing she's going to do is start ripping out statements and find out how she needs to fulfill that gap to move forward in life. So I think that the plan has to be set earlier, the better. Just like traditional long-term care, the earlier, the better. Having a solid plan in place to be able to execute when that does happen. Have an advisor there that you can lean on to execute that plan if you're not able to. Secondly, the older you get, right, the more costly long-term care gets, right? That naturally, there are in these days alternative ways to fund that, whether that's with an income doubling technique with a fixed index annuity, or going through the life insurance piece where you have a rider attached where you can fund long-term care, but having a specified allocated portion of your assets designed to fill that need, Steve, I think is most important. If it's traditional long-term care and paying the cost, then do it. But if it's saying this piece is there to make sure that we can jump over that hurdle in life, keep moving through retirement.
Well, I have a question on that then.
Sure.
So let's say right now, either it's if you use long-term care with a life product or long-term care with an annuity product. Which one gives you more bang for the buck? Because is it 2-to-1? Is it 3-to-1? What is it?
That's true. So with life, there's an accelerated benefit, right? With annuities, it could be an income doubler. So if you, let's say that you had $30,000 or you're deferring this piece over years, of course, mortality credits increase over time. Let's say at age 80, that happens to be 7%, and you're able to draw out $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 a year for the purpose of long-term care to fill that need. That income would double. So if it was 50, it then goes to 100. What's really fascinating is because it's built on a lifetime income frame. Let's say that income of 100,000 is slowly depleting. It reverts back to that 50,000 of income that you can never outlive. So it becomes a little more complicated, but just have peace of mind that it's there, right? It's designed to fulfill that need in life.
Okay, and again, I think, right down from my house, they're building a huge nursing home facility. Some Marriotts are being changed into long-term care facilities.
Sure.
This is all coming.
Sure it is.
So this is an expense. Next to taxes, this is number one, medical and long-term care.
Yeah.
Now, to defend against, to close out our segment, to defend against this, I need to kind of get an idea. Let's say, and I agree with you, if you're in your mid-60s now, it may be tough depending upon your health.
Sure.
I have got mine in my mid-50s. I did not like paying, I'm admitting, I didn't like paying it from 50 to 65. I just didn't like paying it.
Absolutely.
I think I was too young to get it, but I got it.
Yeah.
And I locked down. And that value is $450K of long-term care coverage for me and my wife. See, both. So people need to look at this not in their mid-60s.
Absolutely.
They need to be looking at this earlier.
We're having the conversation every day, especially for those that want to leave a legacy, right? Long-term care, not having a longevity plan in place in your portfolio, you'll deplete your assets faster than you know it.
Well, the long-term care, big issue. Living forever could be a problem. I mean, it's going to be a problem.
It is.
Don't forget to watch our next segment on comprehensive and independent retirement planning, part 5 in our series on retiring right. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or your financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.